And with that, y'all, we got the man of the hour. He's backstage. I'm just going to pull him on and add him to our chat here. What's going on, Frank? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
Doing wonderful. Had a great day.
Yes.
Talked to you earlier. I was just telling him you were just as humble in person as you are in your videos.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate the invite and the ability to share the platform. I thank you guys. I also have my subscribers on here too, so they'll be able to, nice. See what you got going on. And I encourage everybody to subscribe. Do you want to just give your channel shout out real quick, brother?
Yeah, this is Recovering Addict. What we do here is we're all about relapse prevention. It doesn't matter if you're drunk or high right now. We're here to support you. We're a community built to come around, lift, and support. And then once you get 30, 90, a year under your belt, we're here to educate. Why do we relapse? Why does our thinking think addictively? How do we deceive ourselves? So we're here to just give tools to teach and learn and more importantly, make a fellowship of love for one another, because our saying goes, we recover better together.
Absolutely. I agree 100%, brother. Well said. Well said.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm just going to let the floor be yours. Anybody that's in our chat watching right now, Facebook, YouTube, share this out if you can. And if you guys got any questions, Frank's open. He's just like me. He's an open book. We're here to break stigma of the addiction, to show that there's real people who can recover behind the addict. So, Frank, floor is yours, brother. You just go ahead and rip apart.
All right. Once again, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you very much. Everybody, the channel's Recovering Addict. Check them out. Subscribe to them, please. And I thank your audience also for being here. My youth growing up, I grew up in a troubled home. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 1980. And it was, it was sort of typical story. Family, everybody was on drugs, mother, father. I went to live with my grandmother when I was young. I was probably, maybe not even a year yet. I went to live with my grandmother because my parents, they couldn't take care of me anymore. My father was involved in the streets, selling drugs, using drugs. Gang life, in the 80s was extremely prevalent in New York. My mother, thank you, Lisa. My mother was also, addicted to drugs. So I went to live with my father's mother, my grandmother. She and my grandfather are pastors. It was a good home. And there was my first sense of like normalcy, just having a normal family and stuff. We moved to Pennsylvania when I was in the mid 80s. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, we moved to Pennsylvania. My parents went to rehab. They went to Teen Challenge Rehab in Massachusetts, started doing good. So they wanted to relocate. We came to Pennsylvania. That's where I live now. And for a little while, they were doing all right. And then, things just picked up where they were. I grew up in a household with, like I said, a lot of drug abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, where, it was nothing to see my mother, walking around with 2 black eyes and a neck brace. And that was, that was common. That's a image I had burned into my head, where one day I seen my mother. I remember we had plans to go to an amusement park, right? And the day that we were supposed to go, we stood at my aunt's house. And the night before, my dad had beat up my mom real bad. And I remember when I seen her that morning, she had 2 black eyes, a neck brace, and she was beat up bad. And that was like my earliest moment that I knew, of course I seen domestic violence in my house, but that was like the earliest moment that I recall that things were just out of hand. Growing up, it was nothing to see my mother, my father, other family members nodding out, cigarettes falling out of their hands, burning holes in the couch, all that type of stuff. My father was also physically abusive to me, which later on in life, led to me having a lot of issues with men, with dealing with my emotions, with being, you know, the need to be like super macho and stuff like that. So we moved to Pennsylvania. All through my younger, you know, grade school, get in trouble. I always had problems with male authority figures. You know, 5th grade, I'm fighting my 5th grade teacher. Middle school, I'm fighting my middle school principal. High school, I'm fighting teachers. So it was, you know, my younger years were very chaotic. I used, you know, when I was a teenager, I would smoke weed and drink, more like a social thing, because I didn't like the way it made me feel. I remember that, not enjoying the way it made me feel. And then, you know, I was in trouble with the law. I grew up in foster care, bounced around from one foster home to another, on a constant basis. And then at the age of 15, I remember at the age of 14, I got into a fight with a teacher. So I got expelled from one school. I ended up going to another school. And during that time, you know, I bounced around like 5 different schools because I was constantly getting in trouble. So I remember I was supposed to start a new school, and my mother didn't have money to get me clothes for school. So I decided it was a genius idea, and I went out and stuck up a Burger King. And I was 15 years old, you know, thought it was a great idea. I ended up getting arrested 2 weeks later, charged as an adult, went to prison at 15. Before that, that was, you know, that was my introduction to prison. Before that, I grew up, like I said, foster care, juvenile homes, juvenile placements, all that type of stuff. In jail, once again, I felt the need to act up and be, you know, sort of super tough and super machismo, which led to me having issues. You know, I was a 15-year-old child in prison with adults, and at the time, you know, I thought I was an adult, you know, because of certain stuff I experienced and went through and stuff like that. So I go to prison, I come home, and the whole time, you know, in prison and even before I went to prison, I was selling drugs, but it was just, you know, sort of to get by, to have money. I used to give my mom money when I sold drugs to help pay the bills and stuff like that. So I end up, you know, spending 17 years in prison on and off for you know, for that robbery, for aggravated assault, for selling drugs. You know, I like I said, I spent 17 years in prison. 2002, I end up coming home from a prison sentence, and then I am doing good, not getting in no trouble or nothing. And I'd say maybe, I don't know, maybe a year after I get home, my mother was killed in a car accident. And that was 2 days after that was the first time I decided to pick up a drug in my adulthood. I don't know what it was to this day. It was just recommended by a nurse that was also a friend of mine, and said, you know, take this to calm your nerves. Yeah, I've seen that. I could tell when you looked at her that, yeah. Yeah, so I could tell that, you know, that she told me, she just said, look, you know, this is what people do when they're grieving. So I took the pill, and it put me to sleep. And when my mother was killed in a car accident, I had to identify her body. So that image, every time I try to go to sleep, that image was stuck in my head. And it was horrible, you know. So I don't get no sleep for, for like 3 days. The nurse recommends that I take something. I take it, puts me to sleep good. So I remember she gave me like 2 pills. I took one that night, one the following night. And then after that, I didn't want to go back to her and ask her, could you give me another pill? And I had a kidney problem since I was younger. So I took, I had Percocets all in my medicine cabinet, but I never took them because I didn't like the way it made me feel. I took one time and I just didn't like it. So I decided, well, let me take it, see if it'll put me to sleep. And it put me to sleep. That started the beginning of my addiction. I started taking Percocets at first just to go to sleep. And then I started to take them to wake up. Then I started to take them because it was raining, because it was sunny, because I was happy, because I was sad. Everything. I was just, how that goes. I started. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so from 1 to 15, 1 year old to 15-year-old, you didn't really have time to become an addict before you just got straight sent away for a robbery,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, no. And even to me, seeing my family in addiction, drugs, to me, using drugs was a big no-no. And even in amongst friends and stuff, like, it wasn't cool to do anything but smoke weed.
Right.
There was, if you did anything other than smoke weed, you was considered a dope fiend. So, and that amongst my friends and my community was a big no-no. It was like not at all. And that's basically when it started. Taking perks, then I start taking, oxys, start taking, fentanyl strips. And at the time I was selling a lot of drugs. So I had a lot of money, a lot of access to drugs. And but I never would cross into using heroin. I always, that was always a bridge that I said I'll never cross until I crossed it, obviously. And I remember I stopped taking the Percocets and I was sick and I didn't understand what was going on with me. It was the middle of summer. It was the middle of June, July, like it is now, hot. And I was sick. I had like the flu. And I remember I was taking a trip with a female friend of mine to go pick up drugs to sell. And she told me, she was like, look, you're dope sick. And she's like, if you do a bag of heroin, it'll take it away. And I remember when she even insinuated that, like, I wanted to kick her out the car. I was so offended that I was like, how dare she tell me, to sniff a bag of dope, first of all, and that I'm dope sick. I was like, you got to be crazy. I go home, still can't sleep. The next night, I end up cracking open a bag of heroin, sniffing it, and just like that, I felt better than I did before. And then even better on top of that, because I was high. And that I kept on sniffing for a couple months. Unbeknownst to me, the Attorney General's office was watching me the whole time I was selling drugs and was just building a case on me. So they come pick me up December 2nd of 2004. I go to jail, and the whole time I was home before that, I would go visit, my cousin in jail and a couple friends I had in jail in the city. So a lot of the officers that worked there knew me. They would see me come in a nice car and jewelry and stuff like that. And so they knew me. So instantly, as soon as I went in, a lot of the officers were like, look, if you need anything, just let me know. And so I let them know, and I would have them bring me drugs while I was in jail, and I was selling drugs, and just continuing the lifestyle that I was living when I was out on the street. But that was the first time that I sort of got like really sick, started going through withdrawal. And I just remember it was hell. I remember I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I didn't know what was going on. And I was scared to ask anybody because still nobody really knew that I was getting high. So I couldn't ask anybody, how long is this shit going to last? Is there anything I could do to help put me to sleep or help to make me feel better? There was none of that. So I end up, using drugs the whole time, going, back to state prison, getting a full-blown habit while I'm in jail because I'm having drugs being brought to me. And then one day I was like, you know what, I got to stop this. So
How old are you at this time?
Early 20s, 23 years old.
Okay.
23. And I was like, you know what, I got to stop. So I stopped, ended up going through withdrawal in the jail. It sucked, but I just was tired of, of the bullshit. So I continued to sell drugs, and then I'd be using here and there. So I was like, all right, I got to stop selling drugs because I can't, sell drugs and not use them. It just wasn't worth it. Yeah, that's right, Dwight. There's definitely drugs to be found in a penitentiary, unfortunately. So I come home from prison in 2008. I'm doing good for a little while, and then some of the money that I had saved up from before I went to prison started running low. And I remember I got to like $5,000 left, and I was like, all right, I got to do something. And I wasn't trying to go to work or anything like that, So I went and started picking up another package to sell drugs. Started using again. Now this time I started shooting up. I remember the first time I stuck a needle in my arm. It was like a catch-22. It was one of the best feelings that I ever felt. But my head and my heart was telling me, like sirens were going off, and it was telling me, you're fucking up. You shouldn't be doing this. And it continued. And then I went back to jail. I was placed in like an inpatient program by parole, and I left, went back to jail. Then I just go back through the same cycle. I come home 2013, start doing really good. I open up my first barber shop. And I remember like I had some jewelry and stuff from when I was selling drugs, and I came home and I was like, all right, this stuff, like this doesn't appeal to me anymore. So I sold it, used that money to open up my barber shop. And I was like, I'm just going to start doing what I have to do. I got on Suboxone, and I remember I didn't like it though. I was like, man, I don't like this feeling. I just feel like I'm dependent to something else. So I started taking it a little while. And this is before I even relapsed when I came home. I was taking it as a preventive measure, but I just didn't like the feeling. So I stopped taking it. Then I started going through some personal stuff, with my daughter's mother. And then I end up picking back up like normal. So I end up going to a rehab, getting clean, and I come home and I get back on Suboxone now. And in my head, I sort of seen it as either Suboxone or dope. I didn't see no in between. I didn't see like, okay, I could just be sober. You know what I mean? And while I say that, I also want to say something too, that a lot of people, even on my channel and people that I speak to, a lot of times would be like, well, it's not really sober because I'm on Suboxone, and I always tell them, look, whatever keeps a needle out of your arm or a pipe out of your mouth or whatever your vice is, so be it, and if anybody that truly cares about you, they're going to be all right with you being on Suboxone or being on methadone or being on Vivitrol or whatever it is, where I was caught up in the outside noise. And I try to always tell them, don't get caught up in the outside noise. If somebody truly cares about you, they don't give a fuck what it takes for you to get clean, whether it's meetings, whether it's church, whether it's your kids or Suboxone or whatever it might be. So I end up getting on the Suboxone, and then I'm doing good, met my wife now. And then an old case pops up on me. When like I'm starting to do good, I gave everything up and literally started living the way that I felt I should live. And I started just taking one step at a time. But I still had this case over my head. So in the course of that, my wife ends up getting pregnant, and this is before we're married. 6 months into our pregnancy, I end up going back to jail for that case. Now when I go back to jail, I absolutely, yeah, any means necessary. Exactly. You know, we do anything to get high, so we should do anything to get clean. If we want to truly get clean. So now when I go back to jail, usually I'm in trouble in jail. I'm selling drugs in jail, sending money home, having money in the penitentiary, and living basically penitentiary rich. And this time I was like, I have a good woman at home. I need to get back to her ASAP. So I completely stay away from everything that I used to be involved in jail. Come home 2.5 years later and come home to nothing, nothing. I had lost I went from having my business, from having a nice house, a Mercedes and a BMW, to fucking living homeless. Me and my wife and our children were sleeping on a mattress on the floor in my mother-in-law's house. And I remember one time my son, he was about 2 years old, and he rolled off the mattress in the middle of the night. And we were sleeping like up on a loft. And there, if he would have rolled over a couple more times, he would have fell off the loft. And I remember in my head, I was like, this shit just ain't right. I said, I deserve more. My kids deserve more. So me and my wife slowly, and my wife also is in recovery also, so I just started slowly trying to do things. First, going to counseling, and that was mandated by parole. And I remember when I first started going to counseling, I hated that shit. I was like, how is this white lady going to understand anything that I'm going through or been through? And turns out she might not have understood, but she knew how to accept, what I was saying. And it was tough for me and for men in general, for us to open up about our feelings, especially when we've been traumatized and we've been told, that men don't talk about their feelings and stuff like that. And that was the best thing that I ever did, was go see that counselor and have somebody hold me accountable. That I had to go see her every Monday. And there was times I wanted to slip up, but I couldn't, because I was like, damn, I got to go see Tabby on Monday. So I slowly started doing the right thing. We ended up getting our own apartment. Then we ended up, getting a car. And it was a piece of shit car, but it was a car. It got us from point A to point B. And my life started to get easier. I opened my barbershop back up. I had to fight custody, to spend time with my daughter. And I did all the supervised visits and the fucking piss tests and everything you could think of. And then the judge had, we were going on. Thank you, brother. I think just as a male in general, we can relate to that, and also we worked up to go on vacation. So this was our first family vacation we were going to go on. Super happy. I talked to my daughter. I tell her, look, Mom, I'll be there in a half an hour. I'm leaving the barbershop now. I'm going to come pick you up. I pull up at her house. Her mother doesn't let her go. She was just doing it to be spiteful. We had a court order in place. Judge told her, let her go. She was just, she was extremely spiteful. So, yeah, absolutely, Sean. 100%. Yeah, we get all those feelings because we're so used to not feeling anything. So when I had, those feelings, speaking of feelings, when I went to pick my daughter up and she wasn't allowed to come, her mother just, was like, no, you're not getting her. And my daughter's crying. She wants to go to the beach. So I was upset. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was like, damn, I did everything the way I was supposed to do. I went to court. I stood on my head. Everything they wanted me to do, I did, and then some. So I said, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get high. So instead of going to the beach, I tell my wife, I said, well, let's take the kids to Philly, to the zoo. Philly, that's where I go get high. That's where I go do my thing. So as we're there, I sneak off and go see one of my friends. We're in Philly. We just stopped. I said, look, I got to go see one of my homies. And in the course, he slides me 2 bags of dope. So now I'm coming home. They're burning a hole in my pocket because I can't wait to use them, but I can't do it while my wife is up or I have to wait for the whole house to go sleep. Right. So they end up going to sleep. And it was one of those nights, like everything was going wrong on the trip. We got pulled over. We got a flat tire. I left my bank card at home. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. The fucking kids didn't want to go to sleep until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I just want to get high. But I had to wait literally until everybody went to sleep. So I wait. Everybody's asleep. I sneak off in the bathroom, crack open a bag of dope. And exactly, I'll show you I'm going to ruin my life. Yep. I like to say I'll show you I'll hurt me,
Yep.
Yeah. So I crack open the bag of dope, sniff it, and that's all I know. Evidently I overdosed from not getting high for so long. The dope wasn't dope anymore. It was fentanyl. I didn't know. I was clean for years at that time. Wake up in the hospital. My wife, when I come home from the hospital a couple days later, my wife tells me the story. My son, who was 2 years old at the time, he woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he woke my wife up and told my wife, like, where's daddy? He used to sleep in a bed with us. And she looks for me in the bed. I'm not there. She looks down the hallway, sees the bathroom light open. So she decided to get out of bed, come check on me, and I'm laying on the floor dead. No pulse, no heartbeat, nothing. From the time that she called 911 till the time I got loaded in the ambulance, it took 15 minutes. So for that time, my wife's a nurse also. She knows, emergency procedures. She was giving me CPR, chest compressions, everything. Nothing. The ambulance, the cops get there. They give me 1 shot of Narcan, nothing. 2 shots of Narcan, nothing. 3 shots. They end up giving me 4 shots of Narcan to bring me back. They ended up having to, give it to me in a shot in my neck because my arms, my heart had stopped for so long that it was hard for them to find veins in my arms. And I have extremely good veins, and I remember coming home from the hospital and let me back up 1 second. So when I was on the floor there dying, I remember it was the most violent thing I've ever went through. And somebody was like pushing me on my back and was like, no, not yet, and it was like the most violent thing I've ever been through, the most emotional thing I've ever been through. It was like every emotion. Thank you, Becca. It was every emotion that I could possibly feel. Like I felt like that it seemed. Absolutely, my son saved my life. I like to feel like that was God that woke him up, and my wife. Thank you, Mr. Red. Like it was my wife who listened to him, because if my son wakes me up at 1:30 in the morning, be like, "Where's mommy?" I'm be like, "Man, take your ass to sleep." Like, I don't know where she's at, but I'm tired. So they saved my life. I remember coming home from the hospital, and absolutely that was God talking, Michael. And feeling like I felt like I wasn't even inside my body. I felt like I was walking weird, and I was like, man, how long is this stuff gonna last? Like just the feeling, I felt like I was in a stranger's body. So now I got to call my PO, and I'm scared that I'm going to go back to jail, and I call him, talk to him. He's like, damn, I thought you were doing good. I said, look, I was. It was just the isolated use. And it just turned out horrible. So I go to rehab, and the whole course of in rehab, I'm sitting in the fucking front row of every single meeting. I'm taking notes. I was there like you would have thought I'm getting a class on how to make $1 million as soon as I'm out of this program, because I'm there soaking everything up. And it reminded me of being younger and being in those meetings and seeing those people. Absolutely, I'm blessed. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I remember seeing those people that looked like me when I was in that rehab in that front row, because I realized now it's life or death. It's not about getting high and losing my car or losing a relationship. It's about losing my life. Um, and I remember seeing those people in the meetings when I was a little bit younger and a little less wiser, and I didn't understand it. And instantly that second I got it. So I come out of the program. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you. And I start doing what I have to do. Now I got to start all over. As far as goes with my daughter, you know, custody visits and stuff. Me and my wife, we just make a pact with each other to hold each other accountable for everything. So I open my shop back up, start taking things slow, going to meetings. I was making every single meeting. If there wasn't a meeting, I was finding a meeting. And if I couldn't find the meeting, I was talking to a sponsor. Or there was times where I just had to go over to my homie's house that he was also in recovery, and I had to tell him, look, I just need to sit here. I don't care if you talk to me. I don't care if you go to sleep. I just need to sit here because I know I'm not going to get high here. And it was extremely hard. It was frustrating. I remember times, you know, going to my pastor and just be like, yo, I need to come over, and just crying because I was so frustrated and wanted to get high and just wanted to take the easy way out. And but I told myself, thank you, Lisa. Alicia. Okay. It took me a second. But I remember that I was like, I'm not gonna do it, you know, and I'm extremely stubborn. I'm a stubborn as shit. So I think that helped me. So I slowly start building my life back up. Open my barbershop, like I said, repair my relationship with my children, and start doing things that, you know, that I felt I needed to do to make a change. Um, Thank you, TJ. I appreciate you. Um, yeah, exactly. And sometimes I used to have that motherfucking meeting with myself. You know, sometimes I used to have that with myself. I talk and answer myself. So I had a conversation. I'd be like, Frank, you know you can't do this. I'd be like, yeah, I know, you know. And sometimes I still do that now. My wife be like, who are you talking to? I'd be like, look, none of your business, you know.
I need wisdom.
Go away.
Yeah, exactly. Leave me alone. You know, none of your business. You know, so and I just started doing whatever I had to do. And it sucked at first, but then it started getting a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And instead of worrying about hours to stay clean, you know, now I can worry about a month. And I started getting some time under my belt. Thank you, Catherine. I started getting some time under my belt, and it started to get easier, and I started to feel good. And then I remember I was like, all right, I did so much destruction in my younger years, that I was like, I need to start trying to do something to help others, or to try to give back, or make amends if I could. You know, some of the stuff I did, I can't make amends, you know. So I just started slowly. I was like, all right, you know, at the barbershop, we're just gonna start doing free haircuts. You know, we're gonna take a day. It was near Christmas. I said, we're gonna have a Christmas party. We're gonna invite a couple of single parents from the neighborhood, the community, and give them free haircuts and have pizza, just something small. And it felt so good to give and not want nothing in return. And I started doing that. Then I started doing other things, you know. And then I remember I ended up having, you know, 4 or 5 employees at the barbershop. And I told them, I say, yo, we're going to go to Philly. We're going to go to Kensington, and we're going to start cutting hair for the addicts and the homeless and people suffering from mental illness.
Awesome.
And they looked at me. They was like, what the fuck you talking about, man? And everybody thought that I was on a mission to go pick up a package to start coming back and selling drugs. And I was just using that as a cover. And there's people that still say that now, you know, 4 years later. They were like, you know, I know they really didn't want to do it, but for me, they did. You know, they were like, all right, if this is what you want to do, let's do it. My wife. And in the back of my head, I was like, you know what? While I'm down there, I'm gonna grab me a Suboxone strip, and it's just Suboxone, you know, so it's gonna be all right. And that was my plan. And we got down there, and I smelled the air of the city, and it instantly brought back all the memories and bad experiences that I had that I'm lucky to walk away with my life, it brought all that back. And I said, oh, absolutely not. So we started doing the haircuts, and I'm seeing these people that are slowly killing themselves. And I said, I can't do this. I can't have any. And at the time, all we had was our family, and I had my barbershop. We didn't have much, as far as materialistic stuff goes. We had just the bare necessities, enough to get by, but we were happy. And I said, I can't have any of this. I can't have any of this and get high at the same time. Thank you, Paulie. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. And I said, I can't have any of this and get high at the same time. So I had to choose. And the choice was easy. Once I truly thought about it, I said, I want to live. My kids deserve that. I don't want nobody else raising my kids. I don't want nobody else, sleeping in my bed. I don't want my wife being with anybody else. I don't want none of that. So I decided just to give myself what I deserved, and was just effort, and decided to love myself. And I remember when I used to hear people used to tell me that all the time, Frank, you need to start loving yourself. And I used to think that was the most stupidest shit in the world when they used to say that. Like, all I thought of when people would say that is like, I'm hugging myself or something. And I started to realize that's not what they mean at all. All they mean is, once we love ourselves, we're not going to put ourselves in harm's way. We're not going to start doing shit that could lead us to jail, or could lead us to getting high, or could hurt our family, and that's what I started doing. I started my relationship with God, got, so good. And once that happened, everything that I dealt with was so much easier. If I was let down, if I had plans and they didn't come out, it didn't work out, whatever it might be, I started to realize that, and I was cool with accepting it. I said, God just don't want it for me. It doesn't mean he doesn't want it for me forever. He just don't want it for me right now. I said, I'm cool with that, and my life started getting a lot easier. Instead of going uphill, it felt like it was going downhill. Absolutely, Sherry. Thank you. 100%, Dez. 100%. Listen, if one of us can do it, any of us can do it.
Those are our Australian friends. They're watching from Australia right now.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. If one of us could get clean, all of us could get clean.
Amen.
And once my relationship with God got better, everything was so much easier to accept. And then I started saying, all right, I want to do more of giving back. So we had one day where we just shut the barbershop down on a Saturday and opened it up to everybody in the community. We did free haircuts. We did free meals. We did over 200 haircuts, fed over 200 people. Awesome. And that feeling of giving back felt so good. And
$100 tip, huh?
Oh my God. Listen, it was beautiful. It made my inside happy. It made my soul happy. Yep. And see my family, like, everybody had a part. My daughters were young and they're taking names at the door. And my son was like 4 years old at this time, and he's sweeping up hair, and it just felt so good to see our family there, and everybody that believed in us. They were there. And for me, I was like, they're supporters. They're supporting in us. They're supporting me and my family. And I was like, now for everybody that supported, I always try to put everything like business mind. I said, they're investors. So it's time to give them a return on their investment. And it doesn't have to be financial. I said, just giving them the return on their investment because they believe in me.
Amen.
I have to be the best that I can be, and I have to touch as many lives as I can touch.
Amen.
That's giving them the return on their investment. The same way with my wife, with staying by me when I went to prison. I said, I have to give her a return on her investment. I have to be the best husband and best father and best provider and best preacher and best protector that I can be, because she believed in me, and we just started doing any and everything that we could do to build our community up. And then we started going to other communities and doing the same thing. And we started going to Kensington on a normal basis. Anybody on the East Coast knows Kensington is one of the largest open air heroin markets in the United States. Um, it's like Toys R Us for drug use. There's open air usage. You walk down the block, you see people shooting up, smoking crack right next to the police officers. Open drug sales. It's like unlike anything you've ever seen. So we went to the worst parts and just started doing free haircuts and free food and taking clothing and praying with people and giving them hope and just I used to tell them, look, I was here with you guys getting high. So if I could do it, you could do it. And then other things started working for me. I was invited to go speak at schools, the same school that kicked me out and didn't want me anywhere near them. Thank you very much.
And Sawyer House, they're a treatment facility down in Arizona watching us. There's a whole group behind that text.
Dope. Listen, y'all there. This message is specifically for you guys, right? Because us that even if we have 10 days clean or 1 day clean, or we're not even clean at all, but you guys are in the right place. Take advantage of the time you have, because there's people literally dying in the streets to have that opportunity you have. Amen. Take advantage of that and use that wisely. That's a perfect example of just trying to make the most out of your situation, man. It sucks. You might not be able to see family. You might not be able to call and speak to your kids when you want. And you might have a fucking roommate that snores and somebody in the meeting don't shut up, but you're alive. You're alive, and your life is going to get 10 times better as long as you do what you have to do. You do your part, everything else will work itself out.
Amen.
And, I started remember like they same schools that would call the cops on me if I was on their property. Same schools that kicked me out, and they'd be like, "Yo, we want you to come speak to our student." Then the same judges that would that have sentenced me and did me dirty in the past was like, "Can you come speak to our drug court? Could you come do this?" And then I remember my county reached out to me and was like, "Look, we want you to work with our at-risk youth." And I was like, "Hold the fuck up!" Like, I had to pinch myself. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That you're asking me to work for the county with at-risk youth?" And it just showed me that, yep, I'm a 4-time felon. Like I said, I spent we recovered better together. 100%, man. We do everything better together. Yeah. Everything better together. There's a quote that I always like to keep fresh in my head. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So I want to go far in life.
Me too.
Absolutely. And my life just started getting so much better. And I started to realize that I was cutting myself short, that each and every day that I wake up, no matter how fucked up the day was before, or, if I wake up and I go to work and I get cut off and somebody curses me out, I'd just be like, damn, they got to get somewhere faster than I do, and it's all right. I don't have to allow those little situations now to ruin my day or the next 10 years of my life, because that's what we do as addicts. We take a small situation and we allow that shit to cause turmoil on our lives and wreak havoc. And once we start down that road, it's 10 times harder to stop, man. It's 10 times harder to stop. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate you guys just listening, and absolutely 100%. God to put us all to cross paths for a reason. There's no such thing as coincidences.
Nope.
Listen, I remember that the brother was messaging me for like 2 weeks, right? And I told him, just get a hold of me. Absolutely. The Sawyer House, and especially to the women. Women, y'all have a whole different struggle than the men do in addiction. Y'all have it 10 times harder than we do. So just remember that, man. That people listen. I know people. A lot of women struggle with situations in their addiction and be like, I've done this or I've done that. Listen, somebody's going to love you. Somebody's not going to give a fuck about nothing that any of us have done in our addiction.
Yep.
Remember that. You know, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we do some foul shit in our addiction, each and every one of us. But just remember, somebody's going to love you. You know, I can promise you that. You know, and I think about there's a guy out here in Philly right now. You know, he's preying on the people in Kensington. They just found a young lady, 23 years old, stuffed in a suitcase, cut up. They found another young lady, same thing, cut up, thrown in the river. You know, so he's preying on these women out here. So the ladies there, keep that in mind, man. Keep that in mind. That I'm sorry, I'm sort of going off track, but please keep that in mind, because you know, the same way that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's sister, you're somebody's daughter, you're somebody's sister. People love you, people care about you that you don't even know. And just remember that, man. Remember, a lot of times the stuff we do in our addiction, we got to forgive ourselves, because other people are going to forgive us as well, you know. And a lot of times, I know for myself, I used to hold on to a lot of shit that I used to do in my addiction. You know, that I used to be sticking people up and doing all types of crazy shit I had no business doing. Thank you, Petey. That, you know, I took it took me a long time to forgive myself when other people wasn't worried about that. So for the females in the Sawyer house, man, love yourself. You guys are all special. You're all beautiful. You know, that somebody's gonna love you guys. If they don't already, you know. And the women, when I go to the places to speak, you can see the women and the men. The women struggle so much more, you know, with getting clean because of different things. Thank you, Mr. Red. You know, and the women, guys, it's nothing for us to go out in our addiction and, you know, fuck our appearances up, but for a woman, that's so much of a bigger deal, you know. So I just encourage you guys to you know, to take that opportunity you have, because there's literally people dying out there to have that opportunity. You know, and now that I'm September, I'll have 4 years clean. My life is so much better. It's not perfect, but it's dope. Is dope. My life is so much better. I wake up. We just had a daughter. I wake up to my 2 month. She's not even 2 months old yet. Her, you know, sometimes like scratching on my face and stuff is so much better than being woken up dope sick, or being woken up to have to run to the bathroom to go get high, or being woken up to have to jump in the car and drive 2 hours to go get high, or being woken up by the count bell, you know, any of that shit. It is so much better. I'm able to be with my family, and I'm here, and I'm present also. You know, because sometimes we'll be here and we'll not be present because we're fucked up in our addiction. And we're doing everything we should do. You know, and we'd be like, well, my kids are fed. Thank you, Dwight. Our kids, thank you, Petey. Our kids are fed, you know, they're not homeless, they have what they need. So we think we're being good parents, when reality, you know, we're really not. Thank you, Sky. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, and something that I always say to the people on my channel, I'll usually do a live in the evening time and just talk, and we have a dope community there. And I just tell them, look, it costs $0 to be nice to somebody. Just to tell somebody, you see him, how you doing? Have a good day. I like your sneakers. I like your hair. I like your hat. I like your clothes. You know, thank you. Please. That little stuff goes so far in life. And then when you start doing that stuff, that shit comes back with interest. It comes back with interest. You'll find other people going out of their way just to tell you hello. And you learn to let all the little stuff, you'd be like, that ain't shit. You know, it's no big deal. Once we have that positive mindset, you know. And for me, I I think back sometimes on the way I used to think and view life, and I'd be like, damn, what the fuck was I thinking? You know what I mean? That I would, you know, be like, oh, I'll show you, I'll go hurt me. You know, what type of dumb shit is that? You know what I mean? And I always, when I go to schools and speak to the kids, I always give them this analogy. I said, look, if at the age of 16, if they told us, look, you can get one car, right? Any kind of car you want, pick it out and it's yours. But that car had to last us the rest of our life. And we could pick out any car. We would make sure that bitch, the oil was changed. We would put good gas in there. Motherfucking windshield wipers would be new. Tires would be new. We wouldn't let nobody smoke in it. We wouldn't be fucking banging on it, you know. But we would do that for a car, something materialistic that can be replaced. But we don't do that with our own lives. We get one life. That's it. And we tear our fucking bodies down. You know what I mean? We tear our bodies down. We put poison in our bodies and we're slowly killing ourselves. Yep. But if it was something materialistic, we would take care of it, you know. And it's just so much better, you know, what we put in our lives, we get out. And for me, I just have to watch everything I do now. I have to watch what type of music I listen to because it influences me so bad, especially for the younger kids, you know. And even social media, I have to watch how I intake my social media. I have to, especially like I said, with my music and my films and stuff like that, I have to realize certain stuff is just it's just there for entertainment purposes. It doesn't mean it has to be real life. You know, when before I would see that, I'd listen to a certain song and it reminded me of getting high. Or I watch a movie and somebody was getting high and it made me want to get high or made me want to go sell drugs. And you know, life is so much simpler when we just simplify life. Period. Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate you. Samantha, she's dope. She's from my channel.
Thank you, Samantha.
She's awesome. She's definitely an asset and a beautiful supporter. So I thank you. You know, and I always started to like personalize stuff also in my life where I started to realize, all right, I don't want no drugs in my house. I don't want no hate in my house. I want to raise my kids to respect any and everybody. I don't care if you have money or you're fucking sleeping on a trash can. I want my kids to be respectful of any and everybody. So first of all, I show them that. You know, I have to show them that. I have to lead by example because my kids aren't going to do what I say. They're going to do what I do. So once I do that, once I don't want that in my house, now it's only right to not want that in your house, right? I don't know you from a hole in the wall, but I don't want that in your house because I don't want it in my house, even though your kids aren't my kids, but they're your kids. You know what I'm saying? So if I don't want that for my kids, how fucked up would that be to want that for somebody else's kids? And not only do I not want it, that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen in your house, you know? And by that is every time I interact with kids or anytime I get a chance that I just have to, you know, use my voice and use whatever type of platform that I have to make sure that nothing at all that comes out of my mouth is contradictory to what I want in my household, you know. And a lot of people would when I first started saying that, I used to tell people and be like, look, a lot of times it's never our problem. And that's why a reason why I started my channel was because a lot of times we'll hear people say, oh, they're just addicts, they're just junkies. That shit is never going to happen in my family. That's just those type of people, right? And they might be right, you know, but it's never your problem until it's your problem. Yep. And then your problem is too late because that shit got your daughter in a headlock, you know, or it got your mom in a headlock, you know, or you're burying your son because you thought it couldn't happen to you, you know. So, man, listen, not hopefully, I can promise you that by staying sober, your life will get 10 times easier. It might not happen right away, you know, and I'd be lying if I said, oh, you're going to wake up tomorrow and shit is going to be great. It's not going to be like that, you know, but I promise you each day is going to get a little bit easier. It's going to get a little bit easier and you're going to have obstacles and you're going to have setbacks, but that's just a part of life. We have to learn to deal with them without dealing with drugs, you know, without using drugs to numb that pain or anything like that. You know, so I just encourage those of you that are just, you know, are new to recovery to absorb everything, soak everything up like a sponge. Listen to everything that is being said as if your life depends on it, because it does. You know, everybody in the world that died today from an overdose or through, you know, some type of drugs in one way or another, they all had plans tomorrow. You know, they all had plans tomorrow. So they didn't think that today was going to be their day. So we have to realize that every time we decide to pick up again, we're playing Russian roulette. And we all got plans tomorrow. You know, it just might be our day. And I know for me, I'm not willing to take that risk. Like I said, I refuse to let somebody else raise mine. You know, I can't do it. And I'm sure everybody else feels the same. You know, just one thing I can say that helped me is going to counseling, you know, deciding to put my pride and my ego down and realizing that I was broke. I was spiritually broke. That I realized I gave my life to the streets. I gave my life to drugs. I gave my life to penitentiary. I gave my life to everything else. So, but I wouldn't give it to God. And then when I realized, I said, man, I might as well. I gave that shit to everybody else and they done destroyed it. So what do I have left? What can I stand left to lose? You know? Mm-hmm. And I gave it to God and God gave it right back to me and was like, here, go ahead. You know, he's like, build. And it's been beautiful. It's so absolutely beautiful.
I agree, brother. Everything you said has been inspirational. Ain't nothing but love in this chat going on over here. So if you guys got any questions for Frank, throw them in there. I have one question that's on my mind. If you notice, my wife sits next to me during these little casts right here.
Yep.
And she had to live with me as I was this is before I was a tweaker, and then I became just a full-fledged blackout drunk. And she had to live through years of that. Where did your wife find her strength as she was waiting for you and while you were running as an addict?
To be honest, I don't know. She seems, listen, I think she knew me before my addiction also. And me and my wife, when we were together, our addiction, like we used a couple isolated incidents, you know, a couple isolated times, but we didn't have an addiction together. So my wife basically got to know, she previously she knew the worst of me, and then she got to see the best of me. And I think that she realized, like I said, she was like, I think this is worth just investing some time and being patient. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But if I'm right, then it pays off, you know? And I think that's something also that we have to do with our women that stay by us. We have to place them on the biggest fucking pedestal, because first of all, it's not easy just to be in a relationship, period. Now, to be in a relationship with somebody that drugs are in play, and then with the drugs comes the mental health and everything else that comes with that shit. We have to celebrate them. And for me, I tell my wife, and she knows it, I'd be like, you, whatever I got, you can have and then some, you know. And I don't mean, and that has nothing to do with materialistic or financially. You know, my heart is yours. That's it, you know, and I owe it to you to be like I said, be the best husband, be the best father, be the best preacher, provider, supporter, that I can be, you know, because you accepted me when I was fucked up and you believed in me and you supported me. And that's the same thing she did with you. You know what I mean? She believed in you and supported you when probably, you know, other people was like, no, I got to cut my ties or keep them at arm's length, you know. And it's nice when we can give them a return on their investment. Ain't nothing better than that, you know.
Amen.
We can do that with what we love. The Vivitrol shot. All right, I always speak on this on my channel. When I first got clean, the first 6 months I got clean, I was on Vivitrol. For me, that was the best decision I ever made, because I don't think I would have made it those first 6 months, in which I wouldn't have had my time now. And I encourage anybody that is on the fence about Vivitrol, get it. What's the worst that could happen? You know, what's the worst that could happen? It takes that decision from being minute by minute or day by day or hour by hour to being month by month. Those cravings will come and pass. I noticed when I was on Vivitrol, I didn't have cravings. I didn't have none of that shit, you know. So I would definitely recommend, you know, getting on Vivitrol. It's a shot you get once a month that blocks opiates. It blocks cravings. And it's, for me, it helped to save my life. You know, I would recommend that to anybody. Yep, Andy, go get it, man. Go get on it, and you know, your life gets easier because it sort of takes that option and blows it out the window. You know, and sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need all options and all plan Bs to not be an option. You know, because sometimes we'll use any excuse to fuck up. You know, we've all done it. So I just encourage you guys, anybody that's on the fence about Vivitrol, get it. You know, I always, like I said, I always like to personalize stuff. So I always like to think, if my kids were getting high, would I want them on it? 100%. So
yeah.
why not get on it myself? You know, I was on it for 6 months, and then I was like, all right, I need to see if I could do this on my own, and I was able to. And then about 2.5 years into my recovery, I had to get back on it because I had some friends that were killed, and I had a lot of stuff that I was going through, and it brought back these feelings, and they became familiar, and I was able to recognize them before it became a problem. And I had to go back and see my doctor. I said, look, doc, I got to get back on Vivitrol. He's like, all right, bet. Got back on it, and then I was able to get back off it when I felt comfortable. And I'll do that again if need be in the future, you know.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Becky says, make sure to keep that Vivitrol appointment every month until you feel ready to stop and not use again.
Absolutely. Listen, it's like an hour out of your day once a month. You know, it's an hour. That's it. Once you get on it, how you get off it. You could just stop taking it. There's no withdrawal effects. Nothing like that. Nothing like Suboxone or methadone or anything like that. It's super easy. You get it a shot once a month. They give you a shot in the ass. That's the worst part, you know, and you don't have to worry about getting high. And then if you want to stop taking it, you stop taking it. No withdrawal effects, no side effects, really, nothing. I would recommend it for anybody that's struggling with opiates or alcohol. You know, it was originally invented for alcohol, and then they realized it also works on opiates.
Yep.
So
when I went to detox for alcohol, I was on I was on the naltrexone. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Me on that for, I think I was on it for about a month.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In Ashley, that's a good question. And this is only for me. I thought Vivitrol was 10 times better than Suboxone. Suboxone, I felt as though I still needed something every day to keep me clean. So I felt like I still had like a ball and chain, where the Vivitrol, it wasn't like that. And Suboxone, sometimes I would feel high off of it, you know. Vivitrol is not, you don't feel nothing off Vivitrol, you know. So for me, it was better, but once again, that's going to be unique to every single person. Everybody's different.
Yep. Awesome. Is there any other questions anybody in the chat has for Frank before we wrap this up? Ricky says, shit, dude, that's what's up. Thanks for the info.
Absolutely, brother. That's what we're here for, right? Whenever we have a community, we're supposed to help each other.
Exactly.
And when we help each other, I always think of it as if everybody does a little bit, nobody has to do a lot. Imagine we got a grocery car full of fucking car full of grocery bags, right? If everybody takes up 5-6 bags, one person don't have to take 50, and we get the job done quicker like that.
We've been going through this book called Addictive Thinking, Understanding Self-Deception. And one of the things that it's been talking about in there is like the Dead Sea or the Great Salt Lake. It's a stagnant, saltwater, just disgusting lake because it has no outlet. And on one individual personal note, just like you're doing, all the blessings you're receiving, you're letting it flow out, so it's keeping your lake clean and fresh. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We have to. You know, the best thing I believe is when we get in a position to help others, right? It's dope when we're in a position to do good for ourselves. That always feels good. But when we get in a position to help others and we expect nothing in return, there's no feeling like that. And I've always believed this and expressed this also, that the more I take care of others, the more God takes care of me. You know what I mean? The more I do for others that can't do for themselves, the more God does for me.
Amen.
And it's a blessing, you know. It's a blessing, to put it mildly. 100%, 100%, Alicia. 100%. You have to give it away, you know. And we can't wait until it's our problem, because then it's too late. You know, if that shit is in our household, it's too late. What if we could have done something to prevent it when it was down a block, or before it even got on our block, so it doesn't even have to reach anybody we know, you know? And that starts by us just doing what we have to do and taking that time to wish others well and just doing good. You know, because the worst, I mean, excuse me, the strongest thing against addiction is a recovering addict, you know, because we're going to tell them, listen, when we see those new people that are just new to addiction, we're going to be like, oh shit, you don't have no idea what the fuck is going to happen. Look, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to be fucked up. You're going to hate everything about yourself. If you can brush your teeth in the morning, you're going to hate the person that's looking back at you. You know, you're going to want to kill yourself. You know, you're just going to hate everything. Your family's not going to trust you. Everybody that you love, you're going to hate the worst. I mean, you're going to hurt the worst, you know, and when you tell them that and they start looking at you and they be like, oh my God, you know, and we all know when somebody is speaking from experience, you know, and when they hear that, you know, they quickly realize, all right, I need to do something, you know. Will do, Becca.
I think it's because you had your
I
shirt.
got closed down, so I just hit record on my phone, so I'll upload this for you guys.
I think it's because you had your shirt off.
That's what I was thinking too. That's for my OnlyFans page anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, who cares? I was like, what? I mean, I didn't hear no music or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the way I come now. You know.
It's all good.
Yeah, but you know, it's just a blessing. Yeah, newcomers are, you know, they're like babies. That's the way I like to liken it. The baby in the house gets the most attention. Why? Because they need the most attention.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, because they can't necessarily do for themselves, right?
At
And then
all.
once they get a little bit older, they learn how to walk and they learn how to use the toilet and get food for themselves, right? And then we trust them a little bit more. Then we let them go to the backyard by themselves, you know, and stuff like that. But when they're babies, they need the most attention. And it's up to us, the parents, and that's just the people that are a little stronger in their recovery. It doesn't mean nothing about who has the most time, because we all just got today. It's just the people that are a little more firm in their foundation of recovery.
Yep.
We have to reach out to them and let them know, look, it's going to get better. Because we can all go to a meeting and you could pick out the people. You could just look at it and be like, damn, I know what that one's going through. This one's fucked up. You know, I can see he got some shit on his mind. And it's just pulling him to the side and be like, hey, you all right, man? You know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
We had an awesome God moment today. I was looking for some soundproofing stuff, so I went down to this store that I Googled, but it happened to not be a store. It was just a factory. So I went walking through this factory, you know, and a guy comes up to me and we talk for a minute, and it's like, no, we're just a factory. So I leave. And as I'm backing out of the thing, all of a sudden he comes walking out and he's like, hey, I seen your hat, because my hat says recovering addict. And he's like, you know, he gives me, I need some help, man. And so dude, it was amazing. We all got chills in the truck, and it was a God-given day today, man.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm a barber, so in my chair, I have that happen so much.
Oh,
and I can sort of feel the ones that just need a little bit more speaking to. And I think because in my community, I'm well known. So I think that there's people that they need help, but they're just sort of scared to ask for it. So they'll make an appointment or just come into the shop, and I'll ask them, "You got a certain barber you want to go to?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, you know," and we'll just start talking, and it'll come up in conversation. They'd be like, "Yeah, I'm struggling, you know, or I just got out of rehab, or I don't know what to do." And when they come to us, it's our duty, if we don't want to see this cycle, you know, continue, it's our duty to take those 5 minutes out and just speak to somebody. You know, because that shit literally could mean the difference between life and death.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the blessing, the fact that your occupation and trade is a barber.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be a barber alone, a person has to accept you in their space. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You already broke that barrier just a little bit and gained that trust, you know?
Yep, exactly. I always like to feel like I'm a barber because that gets me in the door with people.
Absolutely.
You know, that just gets people to sort of lower their guard down and gets me in, and then I have them in my chair for 10, 15 minutes. Use that time wisely.
Amen, man.
We have to use that time wisely, no matter what it is. You know, sometimes it's just to be positive. Sometimes it's just to be like, you know, I don't know. It's, you know, a little bit of positivity goes a long way.
You're welcome, Dwight. We love you, brother.
Thank you, Dwight. It goes a long way. So just be nice, especially with the climate in America. Thank you,
man.
Especially with the climate of America right now. You know, a little bit of positivity goes so far. Just to tell somebody, like I said, just try it tomorrow. You know, just tell somebody, how you doing? Hold the door for somebody. Be like, thank you. You're doing a good job. You got a coworker. I see you. You're doing a good job. Somebody that's just starting a YouTube channel. I see you. You're doing a good job. Keep it up. You know, that little stuff like that. When we hear that stuff, that makes us be like, all right, I can do this. I can do this. You know, it feels good. There's no better feeling than positivity and just showing love to everybody.
Yeah, especially to addicts, because we've been learning in our book that
of course
addicts have a low self-esteem and infinite period. So anytime you get a chance to praise them, praise them.
Yep, absolutely. It's a huge deal. It's a huge, especially for the new addicts, because there's more addicts that failed at getting fucking 1 week than failed at getting 5 years. You know, so we have to praise them, and we all know how hard it is to get that 1 week.
Oh yeah,
that shit is torture. It's not easy. How many times did we fail at it, and had every reason not to fail at it? You know, and we still failed at it. You know, so I you know, it's really quite simple when we break it down and put all the bullshit to the side, and just realize that if we start treating everybody the way we treat the people inside our home, you know, life gets a lot simpler.
Yeah.
You know, life gets a lot simpler. Thank you, Mandy. She's another person from the channel. That woman goes above and beyond. She bakes some of the best fucking baked goods, and she brings them to the shop and she gives it to us so we could take down to Kensington.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
When we go down there and I take the cookies and the baked goods, they love it. You know, to know that somebody else took some time out of their day to make some stuff for somebody they don't even know. You see their face light up, and I'd be like, no, this was specifically made to bring down here to you. You know, this wasn't something we went and bought. Somebody specifically took their time out knowing this was coming to you, that they don't even get to see the faces that are eating them. You know, they don't get to see that they don't get to get that joy, but their joy is in giving, you know. And it's beautiful. She's absolutely awesome. And we have so many of them on the channel. You know, that is, I always say that we have like the dopest community and family on the channel on YouTube. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, brother, but we're
coming up right behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and now we're a community together.
Absolutely. You know? We're all together anyway.
Yes.
I love it, brother. That is so awesome. Good job, Mandy, on your cooking and just giving. Just
being selfless,
man. Yeah.
You know, and just being a human being. You know, because once we start being a human being, it breaks things down real quick. You know. Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. Well, anybody got any other questions for Frank while we start closing this up? Frank, you got anything you want to leave us with? And then we could say this right there or whatever.
I just thank you guys for the opportunity. Anything that I could do to help, like I told you before, you have my number. You know, it's just all about, you know, helping us. And you know, there's, like I said, there's enough hate in the world and negativity in the world. Just try tomorrow being nice to somebody for no fucking reason.
Yep.
No reason. And I promise you, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna want to do it the next day, and you're gonna want to do it the next day and the next day. And then somebody else is gonna see you and they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna do that too. You know, it's nice. It'll catch like a wildfire. You know, just love and positivity.
Mr. Red says, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I thank you. I don't even know you, but I thank you. You know, just for being here and for supporting. Thank you, Michael. Absolutely. That's all we need to do is learn to treat everybody the same way we treat the people in our house.
Yep.
And life gets a lot easier. A whole lot easier.
Agreed. So we like to close with the Serenity Prayer and a little prayer after that. You want to stick around and pray with us?
Absolutely.
This is my son, Link. There's a cool story I'll have to share with you. He got his head crushed 3 years ago. And
oh, wow.
He's a different type of recovery, but a miracle nonetheless, like a straight up miracle. I'll share that story with you sometime.
Yes, please do. Well, nice to meet you, young man.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, ready? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And dear God, thank you so much for Frank and what he does in Philly. I ask that you just bless him and let his work go, just the love and the warmth be blessed, Lord, and return the blessing to him and to those who are out there and the suffering addicts that, you know, just a few may be saved, dear God, through your power. And thank you for everybody here in the chat. And we just ask for blessings and love, and that we will tomorrow make a commitment to go be nice to just one person, no matter what. We pray this in your name. Amen.
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 All right, brother. Stick around here just for a second. I'm going to close this up. See you guys tomorrow. We'll be back here at 8 o'clock. You know what we do. We'll be on chapter 13, admitting errors of addictive thinking, understanding self-deception. But until then, y'all, do not put yourself in a high-risk situation. Stay strong, work your programs, and remember, we recover better together.